So I appreciate you taking the time to spend with Fast Rescue and Safe Buildings, attending this webinar. So for those that know us, like Fast Rescue, we've been around since 1998. It's a company that I started when I retired from the Canadian Armed Forces, and really my passion was to make safety a way of life, and we've been committed to that passion. So over the last couple of years, especially over the last few months, we've had some pretty good milestones where, sorry, we're now approved providers for the Joint Health and Safety Level 1 and Level 2 courses, our Working at Heights courses, and also for our clients. So what they've been telling us is that we're very responsive to these special requirements or out-of-the-box sort of training and requirements that they have. One of the big things, though, has been the growth in our technology, which is one of the things Safe Buildings is part of the technology that we have. But our health and safety system, it's for any company or organization that's looking at doing the WSIB Excellence Program, that we have our own LMS with over 350 courses and a tracking record for them as well. And if so you want more information, we have our sales rep, so feel free to ask them any questions on how we can help you. Now, the million-dollar question that I have for all of you is that, can your company or building pass a safety audit from the Ministry of Labor? And are you up to date with all the requirements for documentation and training? As you know, every establishment in Ontario has to comply with the Occupational Health and Safety Act and regulations, as well as the Ontario Fire Code, electrical safety, and employment standards. For non-compliance, you can be held liable for potential charges and fines. Now, just to tell you that we have a client who is in the food industry, and they had an incident a couple of months ago where there was an ammonia leak, a potential ammonia leak was suspected, and everything went away. It was just crazy time. Nobody knew where to find the shutoff valves, the emergency contact numbers. None of this information that the security and other people that were on the ground should have had, and they panicked. Obviously, they called the 911 to get some help. But they're trying to find the floor plans and to cut it off. Well, luckily it was early in the morning, so the staff was limited, and there was 0 injuries. So when I talked to my client about it, said, "Hey, what happened?" And as he was telling me, I was scratching my head, said, "You know what? We have Safe Buildings. We have this organization, this app with everything that they need to know is at the palm of their hands." And so obviously I talked to him about it. I said, "Hey, listen, we need to show you this. So if anything was to happen like that again, you've got everything at your disposal," which leads us into this conversation with Jason. That's why we have him here, so he can explain to you. So Jason, I've known Jason for almost 20 years. He's a senior advisor for public safety with National Safety Group, but he's also the chief fire consultant with Fast Rescue. And he's recognized across Canada for his innovative and best practices for fire, life safety, and security. And he provides a real unique ROI, like a return on investment for projects that's always benefiting the operations, for employment relations, and also, if something was to happen, you've got your legal and a reputation to uphold. So Jason has been very good at making sure that organizations are compliant, but also have that insight. Now, he's been sought after internationally. I know he worked in Dubai and Brazil and Jamaica, which makes me very jealous. But he, like I said, I'm proud that he's been able to do such an international outreach. He's a co-author of this book that's for CBRNE for awareness level. And anyway, without any further ado, I'd like to thank you, Jason, for taking on this role to do this presentation. And please enjoy.
Thank you, Dean, for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm really passionate about this stuff, and I'll start just before I do the presentation. I'll start with how Safe Buildings technology was born. I started off as a security guard and did a lot of first aid and CPR training through Dean when I was just a young pup. After being a security guard, I moved to fire inspector, moved to firefighter at an active airport in the Toronto area, and worked there for 10 years and attained the level of a platoon chief there. I'm very strong in boots on the ground doing things. And I think that's what makes, our group here and F.A.S.T is that we're knee deep in stuff. And when you get somebody's perspective from the front lines or boots on the ground, you often get solutions that the corporation has never even considered. And those solutions often cost very little money. And those solutions often save time and additional return on investment to that organization. So really, I was responsible for developing a fire safety and security program for the Toronto Eaton Centre. It sees 130,000 people a day. We sat there and I racked my brain because I sat there and said, there's got to be an easier way. There is three major requirements in all of your workplaces. Number one is the Occupational Health and Safety Act. If you take a look at all the compliance within that act, it can be broken down into daily, weekly, quarterly, biannually, and annually. If the second bucket of major liability in your workplace is security, if you were to take any security guidelines that are published or as a standard in Canada, those due diligence checks can be broken down into daily, weekly, monthly, and annually. Then finally, the third bucket, the fire code. If you were to take the fire code's legal requirements, they can be broken down to daily, weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, semi-annually, annually, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and 15 years. So you start to see a trend here that if somebody were to go through my workplace and tell me what I had to do on a daily, weekly, monthly, and annual basis, create a list, and have those 12 clipboards on the wall, I would guarantee be code compliant within 4 weeks. Safe Buildings digitizes your building's fire safety plan in just under 2 hours. And in 2 hours, you can have all of your building staff, your security, your concierge, your building superintendent, as well as your property management team, have digital access to all of the information contained within the fire safety plan at the fingertips. Why is this so important? Well, number one, if your team can identify the shutoff valve for a sprinkler system 6 minutes faster than every other building that's currently doing it now, you're going to benefit. You're going to benefit in 2 ways. Damages to your building, damages to resident suites or tenants, as well as the costs that are associated with those damages. And that's just one feature of the Safe Buildings application. Right now, you're looking at the home screen, the login screen. From start to finish, we can have a building digitized in about 2 hours, and you download the app, and this is where you log in with your secure login information. Log in, please. So if you're a regional manager and responsible for multiple buildings, you can scroll up and down and see that you can rapidly access any building information that you need to. If you only have one building or one workplace registered, you will only have the one access to the one building. You can totally set that up in the back end of the application. So once you identify your building, you press the building and you're inside, and immediately you get an immediate overview of general emergency or critical or safety information. This is customizable, but this is the format that we've suggested because it works and it provides the exact information at a priority level of your building fire safety plan. You get an aerial overview of the building. It's a great feature. If you're responsible for several workplaces or buildings, you want to be able to instantly familiarize yourself. Oh yes, that's the building we're talking about. Perfect. And then it goes into several buttons. I'm just going to go through each and every button. The whole demo takes no more than 5 or 6 minutes. And if you do have any other questions or information, please reach out to us at safebuildings.ca. So the first button you can see is emergency contacts. Here, you as the building owner or the HR manager for your workplace are able to digitally provide all of your team or employees, if you will, access to emergency contact information, service providers and trades. And when you update anything within the app, it automatically updates everybody's access. Let's go back. The next button is the critical infrastructure. I love this button. Why? Because managing a building is difficult because you're a crisis manager all at once. And quite often, managing a building or a workplace, you put out some form of crisis every week. So imagine having access to information such as what is connected to the emergency generator, how the emergency lighting system works in the building. Go back. Can you give me an overview of the fire alarm system, please, for this building? Here's how the detectors work. Here's where all these systems are located. Here is how the sequence of operation works for the fire alarm system. And then you get instructions on how to reset that fire alarm system. Your security guard team and your ops team or your building superintendent can now access this information from anywhere in the building securely. Imagine calling up information on your building smoke control system in under 3 seconds. That's the kind of information we want to provide access to your team. And who's the ultimate benefit? Your staff and the occupants of your building. Go back. All right, what else can we document and provide rapid access here? What if I wanted to know about the sprinkler system in the building? Fire hose cabinets, an overview of the standpipe system, whether there's a fire pump and where the fire department connections are. Every ounce of information you can provide. Let's go back to the next one because I really focus on this one quite often. That is the critical infrastructure and calling up where the shutoff valves are. There's the natural gas shutoff, the water shutoff, the electrical, the HVAC, an overview of the HVAC system. This is rapid access. Water is the new fire, and water damage is becoming an increasingly growing number. So the faster that we can provide either my supervisory team at the building or the workplace with this information, or even the fire department with this information. So the critical infrastructure button is totally customizable. You can add information as you see fit here. But this is the information that's typically found in your fire safety plan and provides a wealth of information to your staff and your senior leadership team and even the fire department. All right, let's take a look at how you can utilize SafeBuildings to actually now call up drawings and floor plans. So once you digitize your building, which again, we can have any building and all of this information up in 2 hours. You can have access or arm your staff with access to digital capabilities of pinching and zooming and pulling up the second floor and zooming right in. So I think this is an amazing tool for the simple reason is, what else would I want to digitize in this button? So I'd love to have my floor plans because that's a tactical tool for my staff. It's a tactical tool for the fire department or even the emergency task force if they were coming to my workplace or building for some form of emergency. They provide a wealth of information. But I'd also like to digitize maybe the valve tag chart that locates and it tells me where all the small little branch line shutoff valves are. Let's go back. All right, now you can also access the persons requiring assistance list, and that is a list of people who require special assistance during an evacuation of your building. This is vital information. Why? We've already got a fire code requirement to maintain this list and keep it in that little white box called the fire safety plan. Sometimes that fire safety plan is not available during building emergencies. This allows you to always have access to this information. Go back. All right, now the next button. Currently, every one of your buildings has a binder that's down at the security desk that has a list of emergency procedures to follow in the event of an emergency. The problem is it's paper-based, and keeping it up to date and making sure I always have the most current copy in that binder is difficult and expensive. Now you can roll out all of your emergency procedures to all of your staff that can consistently access it from anywhere. and follow the emergency procedures. You know, this is a great tool to allow that daytime security or concierge is typically the A team. They're very fluent in the emergency procedures because they act upon them on a daily basis. But sometimes at 2 in the morning, that security or concierge needs that guidance, and they can be provided that guidance right on the floor where the alarm or the concern is happening. They don't have to go down, take the elevator all the way to go get the binder, review it, and then go back up to the floor to find out what they were supposed to do. This is going to save time. Go back. All right. The other thing you can also upload, because this is your tool, you can upload occupational health and safety procedures. You can upload safety data sheets. And the nice part is once you upload them, you can actually schedule right within the app reminders. If you have to review those every 3 years, you schedule the reminder every 2.5 years. If you have to schedule the reminder to do something every year, schedule the reminder every 11.5 months. So everything you've seen here is really to allow you to simplify things that are difficult to manage where gaps always exist. This allows you to eliminate those gaps. The major component and the final component of this application is the compliance section. So what we have done is, if you take a look at all your occupational health and safety requirements, all of your security requirements, and all of your fire code requirements, for your workplace or your building. It doesn't matter what province you're in or what state. They can all be broken down to a daily, weekly, monthly, and annual checklist. My point I'm driving here is you are actually able to integrate all of your code compliance into simple daily, weekly, monthly, and annual checklists. And then you assign one of those checklists to a specific employee. For example, the security guard and concierges complete the daily inspections. The superintendent or the building operations staff complete the weekly inspections. The security or the building superintendent, whoever you decide, will complete the monthly inspections. And typically, the building manager is required to complete the annual inspections. All these are reminders, but they're growing documents. If we find ever we're not doing something, we add it to it, and it never gets missed again. So let's take a look and walk through a daily inspection. So again, always and ask any of your team members these same questions, and you could find the evidence that they were completed, including the date and time. I would be surprised. Let's have a look. Let's start one, please. All right. Every morning, I would like my security guard at the front door of my building, or at least a workplace supervisor, to verify 5 or 6 things. Number one, I want to verify the front door to my building or the front door to my entrance to my workplace closes and properly latches. Would you agree that this is probably one of the most basic security requirements of any workplace? Make sure the door at the front door is locked. So yes, let's go to the next question. The next thing I'd like that security guard is to make sure that that fire safety plan and the floor plans are in that little white box at the front of the building, and that's a fire code requirement. The next one I'd like them to do is make sure that the PRA list, that persons requiring special assistance list, is also in that fire safety plan box. Why? Because it can go missing. And these are our most vulnerable occupants in our building, and we have a requirement to protect them. Let's go to the next one. Then I'm going to make sure the security guard has that emergency use only key ring that they're supposed to have by fire code and the approved fire safety plan that they can hand to the arriving fire departments so that the fire departments can gain access to my building quickly. I'm going to confirm that they have that. Then I want that security guard to walk outside and make sure the fire route is unobstructed from vehicle and snow. Let's pretend there's a derelict vehicle there. It's got a flat tire, huge note on it that says, broke down, we'll remove 24 hours from now. That security guard can not only document that that vehicle was there, they can take a photograph. Question number 6. I would like my security guard every single morning, or my workplace supervisor, to simply step foot outside the building and verify that there's no ice or slippery conditions on my front walkway. Let's pretend I see ice and I put some salt on it to correct that. I, as a security guard, would take a picture of that. Found a slippery spot, applied salt, and here's a picture of it. And that photograph now gets date and time stamped within this checklist as physical evidence that will last forever. What happens if I have a slip, trip, and fall in my building, and I find out 2 weeks after the incident, and all of a sudden the insurance company calls and says, hey, do you have any documentation that you inspect the sidewalks? Matter of fact, I do. I can now go back into the app and verify what the question or answer was from that specific date and time. And do you know how fast I can find that documentation? Within 3 seconds. That is powerful. Let's continue on with the daily checklist. So every morning, while that security guard's standing out front of the building, I want them to verify that that hydrant also is not obstructed from snow. That's a fire code requirement in the winter months. In the summer months, hey, it's still there. Absolutely. Could somebody park shopping carts next to it? Could somebody park a car blocking it? It's still a standard due diligence check that my security team should be doing on a daily basis. They should also ensure that the fire alarm system and the voice communication system is functioning, meaning it's turned on and there were no troubles and alarms from the night before. Why would I want to ask that question? Well, because as soon as I complete this report or this checklist every morning that takes 10 minutes, I instantly get a notification if I'm the property manager, and that notification comes to me, including all the photographs and all the responses. And not only do I get that instantly emailed to me, I can review the history of those daily inspections at any time and pull up those records, including those photographs. So you have a digital date and time stamped evidence. So the final thing I want to talk about is the scheduling. So this is not a performance tool for employees. This is a support tool. So as an example, the dailies, let's go back to the dailies, weeklies, and monthlies. So the dailies are required every single day. So in the app, you simply program it, or we program it for you, preset that the dailies are required to be done at the start of their shift, 7 a.m. If they're not done by 7:30, they get a reminder. If they're not done by 9, they get another reminder because they get busy. Maybe they're dealing with an emergency. It doesn't matter. All of these, or the majority of them, are code required. So we have to achieve that documentation, whether we're busy or want to or not. So we have to do these things, but we also have to document them. So you are totally fluid in scheduling 7 reminders a day or 2 reminders a day. In addition, you can also simply activate the, if not done by this time, the boss gets notified. If it's not done by this time, the regional gets notified. You are totally able to customize that sequence. So thank you very much for your time. We hope you found this very, very beneficial. We look forward to answering any questions that you may have. But just wanted to recap. Here we have a tool that can be set up in 2 hours. Right after that 2 hours, we can schedule an online in-depth demo with your building staff via Zoom and do this training just like this. And we can answer any questions that you have. Within an hour or 2 after that, you can have those checklists modified to suit your needs or keep them the same. And you can have an entire risk management program, digital, with reminders and constant documentation, and answer the final question. If I were to ask you today, what is your current code compliance for your building or your workplace? Could you answer it? How long would it take you to find that information? Here, you could now look down on your cell phone and verify your code compliance.
Well, thank you so much, Jason. As always, a very exciting and informative presentation. So please, everyone, reach out to me if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to send you some further information.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, everyone.
And thank you, everyone, for attending. We'll hope to hear from you soon.